Hello, this is a fault tolerance simulator made by me, and it's designed to, simulate the concept of fault tolerance, which, as it says down here, the ability of a network to continue despite failures. So the way it works is quite simple. You put your little boxes, um, they have to be within this canvas dictated by the black outline. Put your little boxes. These are like supposed to represent like routers or machines or really anything that needs a connection between them, right? And they're all designed to be communicating with each other, all part of one big system. So after you've made your boxes, you can click line mode, and once you click one of the boxes, click another box, it creates a line between the two of them. Now you'll see this text has just appeared at the bottom of the screen. This is not fault tolerant. Box 2 only has 0 outgoing connections. So as we see, box 2 has, no outgoing connections. So let's connect them all, right? Good. Now the thing has changed. One connection needs to be cut before this ceases being fault tolerant. So the way fault tolerance works is that essentially a system is fault tolerant if you could cut any of these lines and all of the systems could still communicate, right? So for example, you could cut the line between 1 and 2, and 1 and 2 can still communicate through 2 to 4, 4 to 3, and then 3 to 1. So yeah, it'd probably take longer, I guess, but ultimately it's still fault tolerant. Now, however, only one connection needs to be cut before it's not fault tolerant anymore. So going back to our example, if you cut this line, then it's not fault tolerant anymore because you could cut any of the other lines and with being a fault, and it would completely stop working. So if you cut these two lines right here, all communication with box 1 completely ceases. So let's fix that. Now, two connections need to be cut because every single line has three outgoing, lines. Every single box has three outgoing lines. And so, you could still cut, going back to our previous example, you can cut this line, and two can still communicate by going to 4 and then 4 to 1 because it would be this diagonal line right here. And yeah, that's, how this works. So that was an explanation on how to use the tool. And this is more of a technical explanation as to how the code itself works. So, if you just came here for a tutorial on how to use the tool, you can click off right away. I don't, if you're not interested in programming, you can click off. But if you are interested in programming, I'd recommend sticking around. So this is just, the basic stuff. HTML, body, HTML, body, all the, just all the formatting stuff. This creates the canvas, which is very important with an ID of canvas, obviously. Uh, this is the line checkbox. This creates the text next to the checkbox. And then this is just all the text you see. So this is where the actual code comes in. Now, this is where everything's declared. So this is the X value of the mouse, the Y value of the mouse, whether or not the line has been set, and then just things for formatting the canvas as well as a bunch of lists. So this like checks if continuously checks the mouse position. So these are the two lines that actually check the mouse's position. This is all that's required. Well, this and continuously repeating the line, if I can find where it is, right here. And if it clicks. These are the only two things required to check the mouse's position, right? So this checks if it's within the canvas and the line mode is like checked, or the line mode isn't checked, and it essentially it creates a box. So X list and Y list are the X and Y positions of boxes created. So it puts those X and Y positions in a box. This all just creates the box. This puts the number in the box. Um, and yeah, this just creates the box. And then and then this is line mode. I'm very glad I added comments here because I wrote this like a few months ago and I don't remember it too well. So this is if the line mode box is checked, and all this does is just creates a line. So there's a lot of things that are required to create a line. First, I'd have to check if it's actually in a box. Now, boxes are 50 pixels wide, but I gave an extra 2 pixels just for, helpful, just help out. And so if the X, basically if the X and Y are within a box, um, it like, you know, says it's setting a line, changes the box to green like it does, and then changes, the color back to default. And then all of this just creates the line. No, no, no. This like adds the line to a list of lines, essentially. And then this creates the line, I'm pretty sure. Something creates the lines. I don't know. What creates the lines? This creates the lines, right here. Kinda, I think. Well, I think this creates the lines. There we go. All this just draws the lines. That's all that does. And then this is the important part. So essentially what this does is this is what actually checks if it's fault tolerant. So it essentially checks for pairs. So like for example, that's what the line one that's what these line variable or leaves line list check is the box that you clicked. So for example, if you click box 1 and 3, it adds 1 to line 1 and 3 to line 2, right? Uh, and so you just go through and it checks every single like possible pair. If a pair repeats, you delete it, and then you put all of them in a separate list called pairs, right? And then this like creates a line between the two pairs, and then this is what puts the text on the bottom of the screen. So essentially, this just goes through the list of all the pairs, and then if there's like if every single num it includes the minimum amount of time a number is included within the pairs. So if it's like 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 1 and 4, 4 and 2, 3 and 2, then just like the number that appears the least um, has the least amount of outgoing connections, and so you can cut connections and lose communication with that box really easily. And so it's just the number of connections outgoing minus one, obviously, because if there's only one connection going to a certain box, then it's not fault tolerant. And then this just displays it all, right? Very simple. And then this makes sure that it checks the mouse X and Y at every single click. And I probably did a horrible, horrible, terrible job explaining all that. But, if you want to look better, it's all on GitHub. Check it out if you want. Okay.